Hi, this is Alex. In this short video, I'd like to share with you my personal experience being a long-distance relationship, specifically with Vanessa. And in your case, there's a good likelihood that you might be in a long-distance relationship, especially if your lady's in Vietnam, or maybe you're in the U.S. You two are in different cities.
But first, how would you like an ongoing supply of free reports, helpful resources and unique cultural insights for meeting, dating and marrying a Vietnamese woman? Too easy. Just take a quick moment to subscribe. And click the bell icon. And you'll never miss out again.
So just here for some background, right? So when I originally met Vanessa, we were living in the same city. And then for business reasons, she had a really wonderful opportunity in another city, and she moved about maybe 4 hours away. And so for a period about maybe, I think around 8 or 9 months, we were in a long distance relationship. Now, granted, we're in the same state, but it was still, significant. It was different. It was very something that we hadn't dealt with before. Basically, two people being, both of us being, each of us being a different city, all right? And with that comes, basically certain things I'd like to share with you. As I said earlier, if you're going to be in a relationship with a Vietnamese woman in the U.S. or of course, if she's in Vietnam, then these are just some of the things I'd like to share with you that we dealt with, and I'd like to, hopefully you'll find this valuable, and just certain things that you want to keep an eye out for, and also certain things you could be proactive about in hindsight that we didn't know when we entered into it. So the first thing is that your friends and your close ones are going to tell you that it's gonna not work. All right, they mean well, but what I found is that a number of folks saying that it's probably not going to work out, things like that. It wasn't as blunt as that, but there were definitely some, let's just say that there were some people implying that, for lack of a better word, okay? So that's just something that you want to know. Now, every situation is going to be different, right? Your family, your close one, maybe 100% supportive and say, look, it's all going to be great. In our case, while people didn't say it was going to work out, they said that, you really need to pay special attention, because this is typically where a lot of relationships run into trouble and eventually, may not work out. So that's something you want to keep an eye out, is just that, okay? So knowing that, then you definitely want to be very, very proactive about it. So the two things I wanted to cover with you is things that I personally did. Now, again, these are just things that I did, with my, with Vanessa. And, these are things that we talked with a number of people who are in long distance relationship that's worked for them as well. So the first thing is, you don't want to underestimate the separation anxiety, especially if you two see each other quite frequently. Then suddenly, if you're in a long distance relationship, then that frequency can dramatically drop. And so because of that, there can be, the best way to describe it, maybe call it separation anxiety. So things that wouldn't be as big a deal when you're in very close proximity to each other, now that you not in such close proximity, stuff that, for lack of a better word, stuff that would be molehill now suddenly become mountains, right? Things that weren't such a big deal before now suddenly become a very big deal. For example, if you two are very close proximity to each other, or you two live with each other, if you need something, if you want to talk about something, it's fairly easy, right? Because they're right next to you. If they're in a different city now, especially if they're in a different time zone, now you got to take the fact that, well, are they, in our case, we're still in the same time zone. But if you're dealing with, say, somebody that's living in Vietnam, you got to take into account that, while you're awake, she might be, asleep, or vice versa. So those are just things that you want to keep an eye out for. It's really basically the time zone difference, right? And related to that is really then is the frequency, and then also the two things I'm talking about is frequency and the duration of how you stay in touch. The good news is this being shooting this in 2020. The good news is that right now is that people more than ever are comfortable with going online. All right, now I will say that Vietnam still doesn't have the same internet access that we do. So some houses may not have the same kind of level of internet access. So it's not as simple as hopping on Zoom. All right. So there's a couple of workarounds here, especially if you're dealing with somebody who may be in a situation where they don't have a really high bandwidth. That's going to be more the case if she's living over there than here in the U.S. Because there's very few places in the U.S. right now that doesn't have good bandwidth, all right? So one thing we found is we would use Zoom. We have friends in Vietnam we stay in touch with that we like to hop on and kind of see, family as well. And so what we did as a workaround is that we would hop on Zoom or use Facebook video to see each other. But ironically, the audio wasn't always so great. And so what we would do then is we would use Viber, All right, that's a app that's very popular in Vietnam and other parts of Asia. All right, so that's one thing you want to do is when you're staying in touch with each other, definitely understand a little bit about the technology. All right, and again, I mean, you just go online and type out Viber, Viber, and you'll kind of figure it out. The reason I recommend that is because that's how you actually make sure the audio is really, really good quality. Now, if you know if the internet is still that big of an issue, then you may just have to settle for doing audio. Regardless of whether you can do audio and video or just audio alone, the thing I want to emphasize is this: is take into account the time zone difference and the fact that basically you want to stay in touch fairly frequently, as much as possible given the time zone difference. With Vanessa and I, we were still in the same time zone, and so what I found out is I when we were basically living in the same city, even though we had separate careers, now that we're living in a different city, I just found that it was more reassuring for both of us just to basically text each other more frequently. It could be something as simple as, hey, how's your day going? Hey, did you, she loves Starbucks, so it would be more like, hey, did you grab your Starbucks coffee yet? In my case, I make a smoothie, so she might text me and say, hey, have I had my smoothie yet, right? If you're next to each other, you just kind of ask that. But if you're not within the same proximity, then the tendency would be, well, why do it, right? And that's something I had to learn more than I would say than Vanessa, mainly because I wasn't used to that, right? I've never been in a long distance relationship. And so that was something I had to kind of get up to speed with. So this is something I'm sharing with you as, somebody that might be potentially in a long distance relationship, is you may not think it's a big deal, but keep in mind that when you're separated by hundreds of miles or thousands of miles, the mind's a funny thing. It makes up all kind of crazy stuff, right? So I was just saying, this is something that I had to learn, right? Which is that when you're separated, especially by great distances, what you want to do is really be aware of and really pay special attention to the frequency of communication. So instead of just waiting till the end of the day, ask how the day's been. Definitely, do it throughout the day. All right. As I said, the mind is kind of a funny thing, and if you're not careful, there could be stuff that comes up. I'm fairly analytical, and so for me, I didn't know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So going into it, I didn't think this was going to be a big issue. And at first, like a lot of things, it seemed fairly insignificant, and then at some point it became significant, right? And after we did this for a couple months with Vanessa, we had a sit down conversation, and since then her friends have also shared this with me. And I noticed that, it's something that if we're not careful, as a guy, I underestimated just how frequently, I should stay in touch with Vanessa. So this is something you may want to keep in mind when you're in a long distance relationship with your lady. All right. So then the other thing is also is if you're not comfortable on the phone or on video, find a way to be okay or get comfortable with having long conversations. Now different people are going to be different, right? So for me, I tend to be able to just again, because I don't know what they call left brain or whatever, tend to be kind of straight to the point kind of person. When you're in a long distance relationship, stuff that if you keep your conversation very short, it doesn't really give a chance for the relationship to move forward. You see, so stuff that you wouldn't pay that much attention to, that just happens all around you, it's still a way to build trust and kind of deepen the relationship just because of proximity. And so when you remove that, then what happens is you have to then supplement that by having, again, long conversations, stuff about what's happening, how the day was been, stuff that's on her mind. Really let her know that you're there, and you have to really get better at listening. And I'm telling you this because this is all the stuff I had to learn as well. I was fine with having conversation with somebody face to face, but talking to somebody on the phone for an extended period, or even Zoom, took me a while to kind of get the hang of. Now I'm very comfortable with it. But in the past, if I kind of viewed the phone as kind of like a business tool, not a social tool. And so when I got on the phone, unless it was business related, I just have very, very short conversation, even with my own family. And unfortunately, that wasn't the way to basically build trust and also move the relationship forward. All right. So that's again something that I just had to learn, and you may find it valuable as well. So if you're like me, where you conduct a lot of business on the phone, especially now, where almost nothing is done face to face, you also have to get very comfortable with then having use the phone for social reasons as well. And if you prefer having face to face because it feels more natural, some people, they don't really do well on the phone for an extended period because they don't feel like they're really talking to somebody. It's a little bit, kind of like a disembodied voice. And so then, of course, then just use, like I said, use Zoom or Facebook video, things like that. The good news is, like I said, there's a lot more technology available now than ever, okay? So let me wrap that up here. We're going on about maybe, 9 or 10 minutes of this. So just wrapping up, when you're in a long distance relationship, there are many things you want to be aware of. One of it is definitely, have frequent, short communications throughout the day. It could be something as simple as how your day's been. Have you done that? Whatever they typically do on a daily basis. It's, believe it or not, this is something I found very surprising. These are things I did when I'm close. When I'm next to somebody, I'll ask them that. But then somehow when they're not next to you, you kind of, unless you're constantly reminding yourself, it somehow just kind of falls by the wayside. So this is something you want to be aware of. All right. So it's not gonna move your relationship forward if you don't kind of keep some of these things in mind. Then also, as far as like the duration of the conversations, especially when you make a time to talk, like in our case, basically this long distance relationship happened because of the fact Vanessa, for a career move, she moved to another city, and so I supported that. And then we usually talk till sometime into the late evening, maybe 8 or 9, sometime even later. And so I accommodated that. And when we talk, the goal was to talk. Not just for 5-10 minutes, talk for something a little bit longer. Because what you do is you're taking normally what would happen throughout the day, and then you're trying to compress it down. And so when we did talk, especially in the early days of that long distance relationship, there were times when we talked for 30 minutes, an hour, even longer. You see, because what you're doing is you're trying to build that relationship, and you're trying to basically build that frequency and that and the fact that you're still getting to know each other. And so some of the early calls are just going to be longer, due to its nature. All right. So I hope you find it valuable. Like I said, this was for myself and Vanessa. It was a period that lasted about 8, maybe 9 months. I mean, because 4 hours is not. It's close enough. I still, we sometimes flew down, sometimes I drove down. But during that period, I made sure, we still kind of had some face-to-face time. And depending on how far away you are from your lady, that may not be possible, right? But at least some of the other stuff you could do in between, it's also going to really help, cement the relationship as well. All right. So again, my name is Alex. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, love to basically, hear what you liked or anything we could improve about it. This, like I said, is a video that's part of a ongoing series about how to be with a with a Vietnamese woman. And if you like this, love to have you tell your friends about it. And it's been my pleasure to share this with you. And on behalf of myself, Vanessa, I'll look forward to talking to you in the next video.